So, Skip and I started ranting this morning.
Yes.
Like, this is good. This would be a good podcast episode. So I'm like, I'll put it down. And so I just pushed it in. Warranties. And, I have this beef with warranties as a corporate person, right? So when you're in the corporate world, you're buying PCs in the hundreds by batch. And so with warranties, you're going to we have a really good feel for how many of these things go bad. Like I had a nightmare back in like 2003 or 4 one time where Dell shipped out some bad motherboards. And I think if you were around back then, there were these Optiplex series PCs, and after like a set amount of time, I mean, it was something like 4 months of use. I can't remember what it was. The capacitors would pop.
It had a little timer in them, just waiting.
It was like we had ordered only 10 of them, and it was 100% failure rate of that batch.
Yeah,
and that was the one time in my career where a warranty was really worth it.
Yeah,
and even then, we would have been covered by the manufacturing warranty. So when I look at in my history in the corporate world of deploying, tens of thousands of PCs, how many times has a warranty been worth it? I now understand why Dell and Lenovo and all the big manufacturers push these so hard on people.
Yeah.
Because like they make a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. For me personally, I never do the warranty. I am way too cheap. I'm getting better. I told my wife last night I had a great example of how I was getting better. And she said, yes, I was making progress, but I'll probably be dead before I get successful at that part. But anyway, so personally, I don't do that. But for business wise, I have historically very much, adopted, I've drank the Kool-Aid on the warranties. Now, but I see it from an operational perspective. For me, it's all about efficiencies. Could I do this, recover, shift, whatever, however you want to, fix this and do it at a price point cheaper than the warranty net? Yes. But I'm always been very focused on how quickly, if I'm going to do a warranty, I want the quick ones, right? I want next business day sort of stuff. I want it easy for my engineers. It's not a 4-hour call. It's log, confirm, ship, right? And they get their stuff down. So I see a different value to it. But as you were talking in our rant earlier today, how often do things fail now? And
with SSDs and the boards we have.
Well, and, in citing some of my examples, I was like, hey, my engineers could order a part and it, like I said, it would show up the next day. And if for some reason it wasn't the right part, they shipped it back and ordered another one. But then immediately my head went off and went, hey, I've seen the inside of PCs lately. There's not more than one part. I mean, there's the motherboard, maybe some drives, some power supply. I mean, there's just not that much there anymore. So I don't know. You got me questioning my principles now, Adam.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Warranties may be worthless.
There are multiple vendors in the industry who make their money off of selling warranties or tracking warranties or making sure warranties are placed. You know what? What if you just said, screw it? We're just going no warranties on all our PCs. What would that mean to your MSP? Really think about it. Like, get a beer, sit down with your tech and your service staff and say, if I gave you guys each $100 more a month in your payroll, could we go warranty? Would you support warranty-less? And they'd be like, okay, well, here's the criteria I need. I need parts on hand. And if we have that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you start and this is the risk analysis. So we get so used, it's the white walls on the tires. We get so used to doing something that we forget why we did in the first place. And so as an old IT guy, I like to remind people, do you know why we have 4-year warranties?
Yeah.
Why do we have 4-year warranties, Skip? You've heard my rant on this. Do you remember?
No, which one specifically? All right.
It's the lifespan of the platter hard drive.
Yeah.
The Seagate and the Western Digital. Seagate's went for a 5-year, I think it was, and Western Digital's had a 4-year. And that was the life expectancy of a hard drive. What's the life expectancy of an SSD, people?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I like when I left desktop support, they were just putting SSDs and things. Like most of my experience with SSD are enterprise grade, SANs with SSDs.
Yeah.
That's where I spent most of my time with them. And then I've got my PC over here. I've got a couple SSDs in here. It's been here for like 10 years. It's still spinning around happily.
I think
Not
it all,
spinning, but
unfortunately, the SSD question, it has one of the worst answers that, an IT guy wants to hear. It depends, it depends on how it's used. So yeah, that's just so frustrating. But you're absolutely right. That lifespan of a spinning platter, that was my first big technical term that I learned. I felt really smart when I learned what MTBF means. Mean time between
failures.
Oh, I felt so smart. Back in 1986, I'd learned a big acronym, that sounded cool.
But it wasn't a TLA, so you weren't really
That's true. That's true.
Yet.
Yeah, it got downgraded later on. It was snooty because it wasn't a TLA.
Yeah.
But absolutely right, and then of course that sparked the whole debate about, do you turn PCs off or not, because spinning the drive back up or down. But yes, that was a big component, obviously, of those systems. Now, I keep going back to the operational. I was a big Cisco guy. We did a lot of that, and Cisco has part of their SmartNet. There is a 4-hour replacement option.
There is.
If you want that. And, for me operating in West Texas, it's the middle of nowhere. Yes, there's a lot of people out there, but golly, we're spread out everywhere. And it's very, rural and industrial. And, I was always debating about really, we're going to order 4 hours, but where is that parked? And I know how long it takes to drive to get around here. I mean, someone's going to have to be just Johnny on the spot to get in a car and actually drive it over to us. But to Cisco's credit, they met that expectation pretty well. But I guess that would I would still go back to
downtime matters.
When downtime matters. And that was the deal. It wasn't so much about what that SmartNet cost. It was the cost of that 4-hour window. That was the real deal there. But yeah, I think things have shifted, and our dependency, our any platform sort of deal. I thought it was really cool. It was a long time ago, but I had a Lenovo tablet. I ran an early Android sort of. It was a real weird OS, but it was solid enough that I could run VMware View on it, and I could have my Windows session.
Nice little thin client.
Yeah, it was a thin client. And so, that was a long time ago, but that's commonplace now. So how dependent are you really on that PC? And
so I would like to spin out there, little pun there.
I got it.
That an MSP can make significantly better margins by offering their own warranties than by using the manufacturing one. I'm going to challenge my listeners right now. Prove me wrong. Now, there are situations where a warranty is absolutely necessary, right? Let's say you've got, in Texas, for instance, where you got a remote village, off to the side. And when Skip and I talk about
villages, they're out in the county.
When we say village, we mean village.
Yeah, it's not
unincorporated, no post office. These places, we need to send a tech out there. Mm-hmm. So some of these warranty centers have people that will drive out there for you.
Yes, and
those are worth it because the amount of money you will spend in downtime, because you've only got so many techs to send out. No. And this place has one. Hey, you know what? You are a remote facility. You still want good support. We're going to charge this extra rate because we want to get this extended warranty to serve you in the rural community. And that's fantastic. There might even be like some break fix fly by night guy there who's Dell certified who will show up on site within an hour.
There was a
And
lot of
that's
those.
great. And you don't have to worry about it. Those situations, yes, I will acknowledge a warranty is 100% worth it, or just subcontract to that guy. Anyways, but you don't want to maintain all those contracts, a lot of administration, and I hate, dealing with all that. But anyways, the point is, look at how much you're paying on warranty and say, we're going to go warrantyless. What we're going to do instead is we're going to commit to a build, which most of you do already. We're going to do an Optiplex 260. I know I'm dating myself. And we're going to just deploy those as our mid-range. Now we're going to keep 3 in the back office for deployment purposes or for cannibalizing. Mm-hmm. And that will be our state of affairs. When a hard drive dies, we will buy a new one. It's going to be $25 for a platter or $35 for an SSD. Or just keep a series of SSDs on hand, and you're going to image them anyways. So it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to go out and replace this, and everybody's happy. I remember back in 2005, I had a hardware imager. It came in a briefcase, right, guys? I put the main hard drive on the left, and I put the clone hard drive on the right, and I plugged in the IDE cables, and I let it run. It took me like an hour. But I tell you what, in 2005, that was a godsend.
Oh, yeah.
That was before Ghostcast became a thing, really. And so I had a portable imager, and it was great. So I could clone from one hard drive to the other. That's where, we're so much more advanced today. There's no reason why you can't walk on site, clone a hard drive, move over to a new chassis, or take the hard drive out of the old PC, put it in the new one, you walk out. Your SOPs become so much simpler when you don't have to do warranties. It's crazy. And you're making more money.
Well, and
you're increasing your risk, though. That's all you're doing. But in your careers, people, like a lot of you guys have been doing it for 20, 30 years. How many times have you seen a mass failure of devices?
Yeah.
And so when we talk to our clients and our members of our software, we say, don't stop wasting time trying to do warranties. I know the channel wants you to think, oh, you got to track those warranties, because it's a feature they poured a lot of dev dollars into tracking for you. Mm-hmm. And they want you to pay them for tracking it. And then the manufacturers wanted you to pay them to service the warranty. Stop it. Cut all that out. Just worry about one thing. That one thing, Skip.
Yeah, they're the one thing.
Worry about depreciation. How long are you willing to support this device? And you answer that question like, because I know you IT people, you have your favorites. You know that HP LaserJet 4 will die during the apocalypse.
Yep. Maybe.
You know
maybe.
that.
Maybe.
Maybe. It'll probably be there. The cockroaches will probably be using it after we're gone.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know you have your rock solid bulletproof hardware that you put on site. And everything's moving out to the cloud anyways. So you got to get used to supporting things on your own. And so you might as well ride this ship. Everything's moving to the cloud. Everything's moving out there. You're going to have some on-prem stuff. Do your own warranty unless you don't have a tech that can support that. If you get a device that you don't know how to rebuild, yeah, get the warranty so you can have the tech support. But if it's a PC, if it's a switch, you don't want a switch dies, you know what you do? You don't swap a part out, you buy a new switch.
That's true.
And most switches don't die. So people are paying you cash every month for something you know is never going to die. Or you can tell your customer, you can take the risk and go warrantyless. We'll sell it for cheaper. And you just have to buy this. And that's what we'll do to increase your service levels. That you know that in your budget, if this dies, we've got a spare switch on the site, but you will pay for the replacement as soon as it happens. But we will have that replacement to you within 4 hours.
Yep. And those are great conversation. It goes back to what we, are always talking about, let your customers make the decision. All right. But for them to be comfortable to make this decision, it can't be technically based. It's got to be business based.
Yes.
So if you have an option that sits down and says, hey, you said the price was, kind of tight here. We have an option. All right. And we can take the warranty, and you can spell it out in, broad strokes, what you're going to do with the warranty versus the manufacturer warranty. All right. But you lay it out in business terms. We're going to be able to do it in this time frame. And, here's the impact of your business versus that. And they get to put a dollar amount to it. I mean, the difference between the two. And now they're making a business decision. And they're totally comfortable with that. It's something they understand. They can, come to terms with whether it works out well or not. They're going to understand why they made that decision, and they're not always going to be questioning the technology. So you might have the opportunity to float this, as a few trials with some of your customers and see if this is, something you want to do. But here's my suspicion that's kind of been percolating up in the back of my mind. This option, whether or not you have this option to go warrantyless or not, even to decide if you have this option is going to be an indicator of your operational maturity level.
Indeed.
And there's some folks that are willing to accept, some MSPs that are willing to accept with, very bold or, point blank, that they'll accept their maturity levels, whatever it is. And there are others that are in denial about their maturity levels. But this is an indicator. If you can plan out and say, hey, I did the math, going warrantyless is a good deal. Or if you don't know, then that's probably an indicator that your maturity level is not where it needs to be.
This concept comes from the medical arena. So those guys have medical offices as clients. You gotta think of like there are some doctors' offices who operate completely off cash principles because it is so expensive to maintain personnel and the processes to process insurance that they say, tell you what, I will save $10,000 a month in personnel if I go cash. So you break an arm, it's $200 flat fee. And so with your MSP, imagine a world where you don't have to deal with warranties anymore. Like that, like imagine not having to look up the warranty on the PC. Imagine having a scenario where you're getting an extra $100 on every PC sale of pure profit, $150, whatever the warranties are today. Imagine not having to train your staff or maintain the Dell certification. Imagine knowing that when you walk into a new client, that you don't care which PCs are under warranty and which ones are not, that you are willing to just say, all right, we're immediately depreciating. We're immediately saying all these are not under warranty. They're now under our guidelines. We're going to charge this rate to support your PCs. However, no matter what happens, we will help you with your PC. That is a much simpler world, just like the doctor's office. It's a much simpler world where you don't have to maintain personnel to manage all these warranties. You don't have to go buy software that tracks these warranties and does warranty lookups for you. All you have to do is fix the computer, fix the server, fix the switch. That's it. And you just have to make sure that you have these service levels and the expertise of staff on hand to maintain the equipment, which most of you do anyways.
And bringing that in, it kind of opens the door for a lot of you guys to push a little bit harder on this whole managed, hardware sort of environment. Now, how you get the hardware, there's a lot of options, but if you're able to wrap all of this, literally all this in one package and say, here is your device, and we're going to replace this device every 3 years. All right.
Yep.
So you've set expectations. All right. We made a conversation about that yesterday in budgeting. You set expectation with your customers. This is your cost, and we're going to replace this machine every 3 years. And now, from an operational side, you know that your team is going to be working with the equipment they need to be. It's those because you can go through your ticket logs right now, and there is a ticket floating around. It comes up over and over. There's this whole group or maybe just a handful of machines that your team spends way too much time on because they're way too old. All right. This pulls those out. All right. These are the boxes. We're going to rotate them through, and it creates recurring revenue on those established cycles. Your clients are not so much into that. Well, I think this year we're going to get one more, year out of it before I spend that money. No, it's a flat fee. They're just paying on that going forward. There's a lot of options here for MSPs, but back to what I was saying a minute ago, if all of that just looks like, a snowstorm in front of you and you have no idea what that is looking like, that's probably an indicator that you need to take a step back and get some, more organizational stuff. Because just as you tell your clients that you're going to be proactive in supporting their technology, you need to be proactive in planning and supporting your business.
Yeah.
This proactive element has to be really, really important in your organization to be able to see. I know it's not a guaranteed crystal ball. All right. Dale, you had it. I wish you'd pass it down, but there has to be some visibility through that snowstorm. And if you can't see past arm's length, then there's some things you need to work on.
Yeah. And I just highly recommend, I'm challenging people listening to this. And who I'd love to get an opinion of? Maybe I'll reach out to Tom Lawrence and see if he's willing to do a follow-up podcast here. Because, what is the deal here? Like, why? I mean, like, if you've got a PF Sense firewall, for instance, right? You've installed it on some your favorite hardware, and you're supporting that yourself. PF Sense is a fantastic firewall. You don't need a warranty on that. I mean, those things that I ran my BSD firewall. What was it? Mono wall, like for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I ran off a 3.5-inch floppy, guys. that was what I did. And that was bulletproof. If you've got hardware that you trust, if you are consistent on delivery and you know what you want to deliver, hardware is not changing that much. Hardware is not failing that much anymore. That's why we're able to make major bucks with hosting, hardware as a service. That's why we see these giant manufacturers out there, because they can do this. And, it might be you don't need a white box, but you need something in between. And that's the buy from your favorite manufacturer, the bulletproof PC you believe in, and make that your standard. Buy the workstation levels for people who need more power. That is now your workstation standard. And this is you just standardize your stack so that you know what to support, and then you have spares in the back office.
Yes. And
take your savings and go on a nice vacation.
Yes. That more than anything, in the corporate world, we ran through that. We had, gone through a series. It was a, big publicly traded company, and they'd bought some smaller ones. We acquired some stuff, and there was a season there where we had a variety of stations, and we couldn't run a standard ghost image. It was like, oh no, the chipset doesn't match on that one. It'll fail. Or, it would work, but it took an extra hour of patching and, finagling to make it happen. But then we ran through as time, and we did this bulk move. The tech in me was really, or the nerdy guy, I saw these great machines go out the door, right? I was like, that's still good hardware, and it disappeared. Yep. But, the season after that was dramatically less complicated, and it allowed the team to focus on other things. I remember some of our desktop guys were getting more involved in the actual applications that our users were running. I mean, working within, one industry there within the corporate environment. So it's okay if you had an IT person actually beginning to understand this oil and gas software and how it wrote data and where it wrote data to, and doing some testing, because we were able to support our users. So there is a strong value in standardization. And if you're chasing that operational efficiency, and, sometimes we talk bad about it, but it is, something you need to focus on. Standardization is going to be a key element in making your team and your organization more efficient.
Yeah. And this is just something I like to challenge people with this stuff. Like, what is it you're making your money off of? What are you spending your money on? What outdated processes are you following just because a channel tells you to? Who's making money off of what you are doing? Are you, or is the manufacturer? is some software company making the money off of you. So
Are
what
you
I
working? Are
am
you
going to
working for
challenge
Dell?
you to think in
That's
terms of depreciation. What's the end of life for this asset when it's unsupportable? When does your staff think it's unsupportable? Go down your config types. It's an exercise we do with our members. Go
yeah,
down your config
absolutely.
types and figure out how long are you willing to support this device, and then figure out, do I really need a warranty for that range? And then you are good. Now you've got a standardized process for your service stack. Once this thing reaches the end of life, the depreciation, and you've notified the client when they bought this, hey, this depreciated in 2022, we no longer support it. If you open a ticket on this device, we will not troubleshoot the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
You take the hard line there. Or be the entrepreneur and say, as of 2022, the service fees for this device
Yes,
doubled.
that's what you do right there. And we've got members who they use our reports in conjunction with some of their other stuff they do, and they get a score. And they tell their clients, hey, if you're within this range, it's all good. But if you go above this range, we're going to start a prorated in price increase because you're out of compliance with our stack. And they've got customers that look at that and go, all right, that's okay. I don't want to mess with that. And they pay 20, 30, 40% more, all right, on their service contract. So they're out of compliance, but the MSP is making more money. So everyone's okay with it, right? Everyone made a business decision.
They've assumed the risk. You have helped them out with it, and everybody's moving forward.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to challenge you guys all for this to end this podcast here. Are warranties worth it? I don't think so, except for in extremely rare situations. So
I always like debating
what
Adam.
about for you?
Always. So send me some ammo. All right. What should I argue with Adam about on this? Let me know.
Definitely. All right. We'll talk to you all next week.